Now we come to the module on pricing with market power. Before jumping into all the nuts and bolts that are coming, I'd like to introduce it and give it some motivation. First, where have we been? Well, what we've been doing in the first two modules is developing the tools that give us the supply and demand model. So the first module was on consumer theory, and one of the punchlines there was the market demand curve. The second module was on the theory of production, or producer theory, which gave rise to the supply curve. And we put supply and demand together to study a scary market structure called perfect competition. And the textbook answer there was a zero-profit equilibrium condition. Now, from the firm's perspective, with perfect competition, the firm's demand curve is horizontal. That means that it's perfectly elastic. Now, why was that? Each firm was selling an identical product. If it were to raise its price, all of its demand would go away. But another way to say that is that the firm has no ability to raise price. Now we're going to change all that. We're going to study contexts where there's market power. And that means that firms have downward sloping demand curves. There are two reasons why firms could have downward sloping demand curves. One is that a firm could literally be the only firm in the market, a monopolist, in which case it faces the market demand curve as its demand curve. And since the market demand curve is downward sloping, the firm's demand curve would therefore be downward sloping. Even when a firm's not literally a monopolist, though, if the firm has a differentiated product, that is, its product is a little bit different from others and maybe better in some respects to some consumers, then it would have some ability to raise price without all of its demand going away. And so it would still have a downward sloping demand curve. And that gives rise to the possibility of profits in equilibrium. So starting today, you might say, we move from the black and white world of Kansas to the colorful world of Oz, where Kansas is the zero-profit world of perfect competition, and Oz, colorful Oz, is the happy world of the possibility of profits in equilibrium. So what's our plan for this module? Well, our goal is to learn the tools for pricing with market power. That is, again, when a firm, or our firm, faces a downward sloping demand curve for our product. Now, these tools include single price monopoly pricing, first and third degree price discrimination, two-part tariffs, bundling, we'll study bundling of the pure variety, as well as intertemporal price discrimination. There are some more tools, but this is what we can cover in this course, and this is a great introduction to these tools. We'll also talk about the sources of monopoly and market power. And we'll illustrate these tools and apply them in a couple of contexts that I'm going to call laboratories. One of these is I call it yogurt wars, but we have some data that I'll share with you on the prices and quantities of Dannon and Yoplait yogurts at some grocery stores, and we can look at those data to learn a bit about the demand curve as well as about the some things about the interplay between firms later in the course. We also have some information about songs, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But our work in this module is going to culminate in some realistic exercises to figure out yogurt prices, and also in you drafting a memo, ostensibly to Apple Computer, telling them how to set song prices using the tools we cover in this module. Let me say a little bit more about that, because that's going to be what your group problem set is in this module. So let me motivate that problem. If you think back to 2003, Steve Jobs took the music world by storm when he introduced the iTunes Music Store. It was a huge immediate success, and now it generates over $5 billion a year in revenue. Now, initially, all the songs at the US site were 99 cents. And this was a huge sore spot for the record labels, and it was frankly a source of consternation for students of managerial and microeconomics. Question being, why this price? Why the same price for all songs? Now, that's not quite true anymore. There's now a three-tiered pricing scheme. Why not some alternative form of fancy pricing along the lines of what we're talking about in this module? So we're not going to answer these questions today, but we're going to learn the tools for answering these questions, and then I think it'll be a lot of fun to apply those tools to the problem set where I'll give you some real data and ask you to figure out some alternative pricing schemes that could generate more revenue. Okay, well, why don't we move on and jump into it.